hosts of this station.
I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
All right, people, write something on the board. Let's spell it. First letter.
L O G.
What's that? What?
It's time. It's time to have real, honest, open, difficult, and inspiring conversations. It's time for Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. Well, hello there, family, and welcome to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. Today is Thursday, May 4th. Ooh, do you believe it? And I am your host, Carol Riddick, and I am joined by none other than the incomparable Miss Kayla J, who, as you know, always makes sure everything runs smoothly. I just want to thank you for joining us, as I always do. I thought we would continue. There I go. Slow down. I thought we would continue our conversation this week about mental health. You know, the definition of which is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. I thought it would be a good idea, for us to continue talking about this topic, because I believe it's one that we just don't talk about enough. You know what I mean? But before we get started, family, you know what I like to do. I like to check in. To all of our family members who are joining us on our socials, send us a hello. Let us know that you're out there and ready to join the conversation, if you don't mind. And to our family members who are listening but are not watching, we feel the love. We feel you out there, and it is greatly appreciated. And lastly, but certainly not least, to all of our family members whose light is just a little dim today, you know what I'm doing. I'm sending you extra love and hugs, because I know that's what we all need sometimes. I know that I do. Some of our family members are beginning to say hello to us on our socials. Hey there, Craig. Hey there. Good evening. Good evening to you. I hope that you had a good day. Listen, family, tell us how your day was. I care. I ask you all the time. I want us to continue these conversations and to begin checking on one another, because I think it's so important that we do so. I don't want to forget to say, to those who are celebrating a birthday, happy birthday. And if I forgot, I won't say forgot. I didn't forget. If I missed your birthday, happy birthday to you too. And don't forget, if you'd like me to wish happy birthday or send, birthday greetings to someone on the air, send me an email at loveandlife@wordradio.com. And I promise you, I will be sure to make that happen. Family, I'm going to tell you now before we get started, for those of you who want to join the conversation when we begin it, you can do so by joining us on our socials. You can do so on Facebook, or, you can do so by calling us. And to do that, all you have to do is dial 215-634-8065. Or you can call us toll free at 1-866-361-0900. So, today's guests are here to help us talk about mental health. I badgered them, y'all. I said, please come and talk with us. And they obliged. So I'm so grateful. Our first guest is a Philadelphia native who in 2013 founded the nonprofit organization Dare to Hope, which is dedicated to conquering suicide in youth and young adults. To date, her organization has educated, well, she and her organization have educated nearly 4,000 people on suicide awareness. She's worked with notable celebrities and news networks to spread the message of suicide prevention. Her name is Sarah-Ashley Andrews. The second of our guests, hi there, Sarah-Ashley. The second of our guests is Dr. ZENIDA Driver. She is the executive director for Sunrise Community of Pennsylvania. She's a lifelong student of human behavior and social interaction with over 15 years of experience as an accomplished trainer, professional speaker, and supervisor in the field of human services. Her commitment to helping others is guided both by academic and professional endeavors. She received her doctorate degree from Eastern University in 2015, and she serves as an adjunct professor for several esteemed universities. Family, please say hello to both Dr. ZENIDA Driver and Sarah-Ashley Andrews. Hello, ladies. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Y'all see that I'm on 10 already. Okay, I know our family members, I believe most of them are used to me being on 10 as it is, but I was so excited to have you all here. And like I said, to continue the conversation we've been having this week about mental health. We've touched on just a few things here and there, but y'all know, when I talked to y'all today, I said, I can't wait. I just can't wait because I have so many questions. Family, I'm going to tell you this now. I know so little about mental health that I thought it was necessary. And I thought it would be helpful to not only myself, but to you, so that we educate one another, about the information that's available to us out there, about the resources that are available to us out there, and so that we can help those who are in need, those of our loved ones who are in need. So before we get into any of the 1 million questions that I have, would you ladies please tell us just a little more about yourselves individually? Whichever of the two of you will go first is all right with us.
Sarah.
So North Philadelphia, born and raised. Definitely a graduate of the best HBCU ever, Lincoln University. I'm also a member of the Philadelphia School Board, so I do that as well. And I am getting ready to launch a big project, so I'll tell you about that. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. That's
I can't wait.
I'm a preacher too. I don't really say that a lot, but I'm a preacher too.
I love that. I'm glad you did. We want that. We need that. Because I did leave that out. I was going to ask you about your biblical studies. So you know, I left that out. So I definitely want to talk about that as well.
So that's
I'm sorry, Dr. Driver.
That's okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. ZENIDA Driver. As previously mentioned, I have the honor and privilege of serving as a professor at Lincoln University. Started there in their counseling program. It kind of shifted over the years to now their human services program. Also serve as a CEO for an agency, Sunrise, which deals with all things mental health, all things intellectual disabilities. Have the honor and privilege also to serve as a counselor, life coach for various members in our community. And there's tons of other things that I do, but I think that are probably the most relevant for this experience today.
You never know. Our family members are going to want to know all of what both of you do. You want to know everything. But thank you so much for that. I want to take a moment to acknowledge our family members who are on our socials. And I believe I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly, but I believe it reads Mimi Latrice. She writes, "Let's go, Minister Andrews. Let's go." Okay. I hope I said that with the right conviction, Mimi. But say that again.
That's my homie. I'm not going to say her nickname on air. She would kill me.
Well, she's ready. She's ready for the conversation. So we started a conversation earlier right here in this space about mental health. And we had some guests on one of whom shared that his daughter committed suicide. And I thought it was so, well, we were also touched, number one, just by what he shared and everything that he shared with us about what had happened. And I thought, we need to talk about this more. I think I said to the both of you today that I don't believe that we talk about mental health enough in our Black families. I don't believe the conversation is normalized, and I believe it should be because it exists. And I said to you all, I know the one thing I know I've heard family members of my own say, and family, please don't get upset with me, but this does happen in my family. They'll say, "Oh, child, she just bipolar. She's just this, but we don't honestly know what we're saying. I'm sure I could ask one of my family members to tell me what exactly it means, and they wouldn't know. So I thought it a good idea to ask you two ladies to talk with us about what you do, about the resources available to us, share some information with us, and talk with us about different scenarios, like different things to look out for and things of that nature. Excuse me. So where do we begin? That's the question. I want to start with a scenario. One of our family members wrote the other day that one of the babies in her family said to her that he was depressed. He's constantly depressed. If one of our little ones, one of our young adults, says this to an adult member of their family, what would be your suggestion to where, well, number one, what the conversation should be at that point, and what that adult should do next in that situation?
You want to go first?
You can start it off, sir. Okay.
So for me, like I'm always trying to create the safest space, right? Because when a child feels safe, a child will open up. So I think for me, even as my role as a therapist, and I see a lot of children, I have a lot of clients who are children, I try to like reassure them that this is a safe space, that I'm not going to judge them, that nothing that they share will get them in trouble, right? There's no such thing as in trouble in this space, right? Mm-hmm. I want to reassure them that, not only are they safe, but they're cared for, they're loved, right? And that, because in that scenario, I want them to feel as comfortable as possible, right? To be able to share whatever they need. So the first thing I would say is like, definitely don't be dismissive of it, and then create the safest space possible. So even it may look like changing the scenery. It may look like going for a walk. It may look like, going out to eat or something, like changing the scenery so they can just feel safe, and definitely listen. That's where I would start. And we can, continue with the conversation, but I would definitely start there with not being dismissive and creating a safe space for them to share.
Yeah, and I think I'll add to that. I know back in the day, people would say kids don't have any reason to be depressed. The kids don't have no stressors. They don't have any bills. They don't have any responsibilities. But we know currently we live in a time where kids do have a lot of stressors. And a lot of times they don't know how to cope with those stressors. And so as Sarah-Ashley just stated, I think the first thing is to create a safe space, to create an opportunity for the child to talk. Just to talk about what is going on in their life. What does depression look like for them, right? Because sometimes, and you kind of already said it, Carol, people will jump to create diagnosis based off of just common experience, like hearing it. But a lot of times it may not be depressed. It may be that they have a sad affect. It may be that they're feeling overwhelmed. So I think once that safe space is first created, the second thing we need to do is get that child talking. What does depression look like? How do you know you're depressed? What's happening in your life? And I think as adults, sometimes we get so caught up in life, we get so caught up in adult responsibilities that we forget and we negate the responsibility of making sure that our kids do feel safe and that they have an outlet to communicate their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions.
Has there been an instance where you've come across an adult that had mental health issues that had gone unaddressed, and that were now necessary to be addressed in their adult life? Like they've gone through their childhood, their young adulthood, and their mental health challenges were not addressed, but then in their adulthood they needed to be. Have you come across individuals in that?
Absolutely. Right. Because when we
The
think
both of
about
you are like, yeah, every day. The both of you say every day.
When we think about mental health, just back in the day, people didn't accept it. We now see a rise of people accepting mental health, understanding the necessity of therapy and treatment. And so it's more awareness raised around it. And people are now saying, okay, I do have some of those symptoms. I didn't realize I had some of those symptoms. And I think, it's unfortunate, but a lot of our parents and our parents' parents did not know what mental health was or what mental health looked like. So yes, there are a lot of individuals, adults, who go undiagnosed in their childhood because they did not even understand or could not even identify what mental health symptoms were.
Right. And I think all of us have experienced some type of trauma or some type of situation that has shaped an experience that has shaped the way we think. Right. So when we think about it, I can say I can look in the mirror every day and be like, oh, you're a little messed up from, some stuff. Right. But I think it's super common to have that experience where we did not address it and now it's coming out in different ways in our adulthood. So I think it's super common.
Where do you start as an adult? Acknowledging, okay, I've got these, this has to be addressed. I've got to talk to somebody or where do you start? What do you do?
I think it's first really talking to someone, talking to a professional, sitting down with someone, helping them process your thoughts and feelings. Because as you said, sometimes we all go through something at some point in our life, right? Depression is the extreme end of it, but some of us have had depressive like affects, depressive like moods based off of just various things that happen in life. And so sitting down with someone who can really help us understand the severity and the nature of the thing or the mental health struggle that we're dealing with. And then from that professional, then making the next steps, because a lot of times people automatically assume mental health means psychiatry means medication. Sometimes it doesn't mean anything but sitting with a therapist and help them process maybe that unresolved trauma that you haven't dealt with as a child, maybe that thing that you've put in the back in your mind that you haven't processed or dealt with. Maybe having someone sit with you and help flush it through helps then determine, okay, is this just situational or is this a chemical imbalance, right? Which really is what mental health is in my brain that may require some level of psychotropic treatment.
I have to be honest. I was one of those people that always thought that, when addressing a mental health challenge, there would have to be medication involved. I always saw it that way. That was the way it was always presented to me. So I always saw it negatively. I always thought, I see why people don't look into it or don't seek help or treatment because they don't want to be medicated. That was always what I thought. Based upon, like I said, it was always the way it was presented. But that was just interesting what you just said. And it's so true. It's so true because, we all know sometimes you just, not sometimes, you just feel better when you're dealing with something or you're processing something that is stressing you. Sometimes it just makes you feel better to just talk to somebody about it more often than not. Whether it's you just feel better when you talk about it, when you put it out, when you release it to some degree. And now hearing you say that,
therapist, I feel like everybody needs to sit on the couch and see a therapist or a chair, whatever it looks like. Therapy doesn't always look like sitting on the couch, but I think everybody should experience therapy at least once in their life because it's such a dope outlet, and to your point where you can just like release, and it's like a judgment-free zone. So I think everybody should experience that freedom that comes with therapy.
It's so interesting when I was saying to you. Like my family, we didn't talk about therapy. The same thing you said, like you hear a lot of people say, oh, ain't nothing wrong with that child, or ain't nothing wrong with it, or how so-and-so is, or what have you, just kind of not really accepting that there is an issue there and just kind of laughing it off or calling it something else. But now here we are in 2023. And here we are, where mental health, we're actually being honest with ourselves about mental health, saying, okay, yes, it does exist and it is real. And I've heard more often than not, the one, what do you call it? Disorder, I think it is. They're disorders, mental health disorders. The one, and family, again, forgive me because I was explaining to you all, I am not well versed in the mental health arena. So I'm going to ask all of you for a pass because I've asked Dr. Driver and Miss Sarah-Ashley here tonight to help, like I said, educate me as well as you. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to hold my question until after we come back from our break. But family, if you have just joined us, you're tuned in to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. Listen, call us and join the conversation because I know you have questions too. You can do so by calling us at 215-634-8065, or you can call us toll free at 1-866-361-0900. But again, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. So stay with us.
Hi, I'm Kiera Bradford Gray, and I'm here to stress the importance of why judges matter. Please tune in to The Power of the Vote this Sunday, May 7th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. for a special edition and to hear from the judges themselves.
This WURD public service announcement is a reminder that every voice and every vote counts. We are committed to keeping you informed, and we encourage you to participate in the process.
This is Charles Ellison, host of Reality Check on WURD. More than 2/3 of all poll workers are 61 years of age or older. That's created a serious poll worker shortage as older poll workers are understandably nervous about health risks during pandemic. If you or someone you know under the age of 40 is looking for part-time work and is interested in contributing to their community, sign up to be a poll worker today. In Pennsylvania, go to votespa.com, click on Be a Poll Worker, and complete an application. Keep following us at OnWord on Twitter, Facebook.com/forward, and #WordOnPolitics for constant updates.
This BSA is a part of Every Voice, Every Vote, a collaborative project of the Lenfest Institute for Journalism, with lead support provided by the William Penn Foundation. Learn more at www.everyvoice-everyvote.org. Editorial content is created independently of the project's donors. Need a minute? Take a breath and breathe in positivity. Here are words of joy and empowerment from WURD Radio.
Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes time. But vision with action can change the world. These are the words of Joel Arthur Barker, and my prayer and hope for Philadelphia, a city I was born in, educated, lived, and work in, will collectively come together to help its citizens by bringing economic prosperity to those in need, create safe and affordable housing for the disenfranchised, and create safe and organic spaces for adults and children to grow. I am Kimberly Lloyd.
This Joy and Empowerment vignette was brought to you by Comcast. You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Hey there, family. Welcome back. You are tuned in to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. I want to say hello to Tretch Ebony, who is joining us and who writes, "Hello, ladies. I'm excited about this conversation." Thank you. I'm so glad to read that. So glad to read that. Before the break, I was beginning to ask a question. And the question that I have is about the different mental health disorders. There's so few of which I'm unaware, but the one that I hear most commonly is bipolar disorder. Is that a disorder that is more common? Is it one of the more common disorders? I will ask. That's the first part of the question. And is it more common in our communities?
So it's a common disorder. I wouldn't say it's a common disorder, but it is a personality disorder. It is a personality disorder that's often misused. And the reason why it's misused is because when we think of bipolar disorder, we think of it being a disorder where a person goes from extreme highs to extreme lows in a quick amount of time. So when we see people in our community, in our family, in our circle of friends, having moods or getting upset or getting frustrated, and then they're happy, people are quick to say that person is bipolar. But really, when we talk about bipolar, we're talking about something way deeper. We're talking about something that has to do with the chemical imbalances in the brain. That is one of the disorders that we will say has to be treated with psychotropic medication or through a psychiatrist. A lot of times people think, oh, I could just go to therapy for that. And you can. Therapy is always a great place to go. But some disorders require a higher level of treatment alongside with therapy.
So are there varying degrees of bipolar disorder?
There's different types of personality disorders, we'll say.
Okay. Would you help educate me on that? I'm sorry. When I tell you, no, Dr. Driver,
Don't apologize.
I told you earlier. I told you earlier. I said I have so many questions because I just don't know. And family, I know you have some questions too. I know I'm not the only one out here that is uneducated about mental health and the different disorders out here. But I don't want to miss, being educated on something. There may be a question that you have, so don't be afraid to ask it, okay? Because they tell me the dumbest question is the one you never ask. So my question is, would you help to educate us on some of the disorders?
Sarah, you want to take it over? Or you want me to do it?
No, I wanted to touch a little bit more on the bipolar because I think, like, to your point, like, it's not that quick switch, right? Of like, oh, your attitude shifts. It's not even about an attitude. It's about like a whole like mood, like a whole personality, right? It's like I can be manic for a minute. Like, it's just not like I'm sad and then I got an attitude, or I'm fine and I got to have an attitude. It's like it's like two extremes almost, right? So I'm either manic or I'm super like sad. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. So I think like with bipolar, we really have to understand it. It's not it's not like super common, but it's the one that we hear the most because we misuse it the most. So that I wanted to clarify that. I don't know how many personality disorders we can touch on today, but we can do a couple more.
Whatever information you care to share, we are open to receive it because, like I said, I want to be educated and I really want our family members to be educated too. We, like you said, we have a tendency to say, oh, that child is bipolar. We don't know what we're talking about. We don't have a clue.
Absolutely. And I think also when we talk about bipolar disorder, or we talk about any disorder, which it comes from a manual called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And what that manual does is, just like when we go to the doctors, and before a doctor can give us a diagnosis, we have to meet a criteria. It's the same requirement when we talk about mental health, that there is extreme highs and extreme lows is just one criteria for bipolar disorder, right? Or there's tons of others that you have to meet to be able to receive a diagnosis of any kind, let alone a personality disorder. As Sarah said, there's so many personality disorders. We have narcissistic personality disorder. We have schizophrenia. We have borderline. We have tons of them, bipolar, right? We have tons of disorders, but every disorder shows up differently in each person.
I'm glad you said that because those are some of the more commonly disorders with which I'm familiar. Well, I'm not familiar with of which I've heard. I will say narcissistic disorder. Like, would you mind like telling us a little about each that you just named? The schizophrenic, the narcissistic, or the narcissist, I should say.
So one thing I will say, as I let Sarah take that over, right?
I'm the narcissistic. Go ahead.
One thing I will say is that while there's a criteria that must be met, everyone demonstrates the symptoms differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It shows up differently in every person.
Okay.
Sarah, what are you going to say?
Yeah. So I think I want to touch on the ones that people like misuse the most, because like everybody's a narcissist, right? That's what we always hear. Like everybody's
a narcissist.
Right. But and to Dr. Z's point, it shows up differently in everybody. So we can't. This is like a little slippery slope to like be just throwing things out there because they show up differently, right? But like narcissists definitely like hold themselves at a higher esteem. Fantasies about power, success, all those things are like that's what drives them. They don't really care about other people's needs. Like it's like about me, and that's it. you know, the arrogance that can come with it sometimes, expectations of others around them that, you know, may be hard to meet. Dr. Z, you can jump in anytime if I'm missing something.
Yeah, you're on point. I'm so proud. You know, she was one of my Lincoln students. That's why I said she got it.
You sure did.
I'm so proud of her.
It's definitely like I'm the special one and you're not, kind of, right? But I think people, again, and it is deeper than that too, right? Because like to Dr. Z's point with the DSM, like these are behaviors that have continued on for a period of time. It's not just like I'm in one particular relationship and I may think that I'm better than you in this type of space. It's like, no, this is their pattern for, you know what I mean? For
this
years.
is ongoing behavior.
Yeah, this is ongoing behavior. Okay. So yeah, I definitely want to touch on that one. Did you want to touch on borderline or antisocial?
So antisocial is a person who really what it is. They're antisocial. They don't really want to interact with others. They are kind of isolative in nature. You know, they may be able to go into crowds and be around people, but that causes sometimes high levels of anxiety. The one thing I will say, just because we can be here all day, as Sarah said, talking about each diagnosis, and we got to be careful, right, when we talk about them, because people walk away and say, I do that, and I knew that
about them.
They'll say, I have this or that.
They said that on Love and Life. I have that. Right.
And you know what? And I'm glad you said that. I want to just take one moment because I'm so glad you said that. I told both Dr. Driver and Sarah-Ashley this afternoon. I said, I don't want to give anybody ammunition to self-diagnose, but I do want us to be educated. I definitely want the conversation to continue, but I want to take a moment because I didn't realize we have some family members that are on our phones that would like to talk with us. So we're going to take one moment, if that's all right with you, before we continue that conversation. Are you still there on the phone?
Yes. Hello, Cal.
Hi, Ron. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Hi, ladies. Before I make my comments, before I make my comments about mental health, the lady that worked for the school board, were you there when Dr. Ackerman was there?
Yes.
No, I was not there.
For the Promise Academy.
Yes, the reason I asked, because Dr. Ackerman, when she came here, she had somewhat of a mental problem and, you know, got a chance to go out and talk with her and all like that. But what you're talking about tonight, Cal, and what you wrote on, and anybody that have been listening at this station for years and years, they heard me tell my story. I'll be 80 years of age in July 27th, I'll be 80. In my life, and I say people have heard me tell my story through the years, my story have been somewhat of a sad. But it was 3 months of age. But it was caring that took Ryan and got me with the spirit that I've had. And I say that to say what I'm about to say. Cal is in a unique position out of all the titles that she has, and there's quite a few of them, to work within the school system. She have a perfect opportunity to change a child's life. Something like Mother Hill up in New York, what she did with the children like myself. And that's so important. It was just a month ago. That class, Cal was teaching the class, and she, doing a class here with the young ones. And the little child was having a problem. So what Cal did, she went to speak with this child. And because Cal speaks with that sensitivity, that divineness that's in this teacher, this child will never forget her. That's the key. Our people are not mentally unbalanced. They just need a little what they call the word love and care. And if they're not able to get it at home, they're very fortunate to have Cal in that system and people like you with life experience to nurture them. And that's very important because my life has been something. And because of it, I didn't have a mental breakdown. I had a spiritual uplifting. And I had to check our family on the radio. When I heard her speak, I don't know nothing about this lady. When I heard her speak with that tone and that compassion, it took me back to my childhood. I've heard that sound before. I heard that the words of compassion. And believe me, ma'am, y'all are in a perfect position. And the listening audience, just be a little kind, especially to our young people. They are recording everything that you are saying and you are doing. And the healing process starts because you heal them as an adult, you get healed too. It's the 360. So I'm just so glad in this life. And when people hear me talk about Cal, This lady here, what she did, she revived my soul. I've had plenty of ladies, all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking no fresh stuff, but Carol, this lady here took me back to my childhood. Remember me going on 80 years. With what? With what? I seen her. I don't care about her singing. I don't care about how she goes. But her, that divine order, it wasn't directed at me, but it touched me. And I'll never be the same.
Oh, Ron, I can't thank you enough. I really can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for the positivity that you share. I believe we do have another family member who is waiting to speak with us as well. Are you still there?
Yes. Good evening, I am.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your patience.
Sure. I'm a patient person because you have to be patient in Philadelphia with all the madness that's going on here.
Oh, that's a good point.
I want to say to the lady on the school board, okay, I'll be back. You know my voice, so you'll know why I'm calling regarding bullying. So we'll talk about that later. But I just want to say this, as so-called mental illness. It starts very early. I think everybody needs anger management in the whole city of Philadelphia. I think it starts with bullying and other anger issues at a very early age. So that's what I want to start. But I want to digress to slightly say this. I'm a little suspect of the so-called professionals, especially the African Americans, because now, first of all, I respectfully, and I know you all can't say anything about this, but homosexuality, transgender, and all these other issues were mental illness. Now they're all the rage, and I say that respectfully, but I just want to say I'm a researcher. So I researched the origin of how things start. And now oppositional defiance, something that a black person probably would have because we've been under pressure for 400 years, is all the rage. So I think we need to be careful. I want to ask the question respectfully, and maybe you all can't even answer this because I understand that you can't say certain things because you might hurt people's feelings. But I'm seeing that certain things have become undercovered and then more promoted throughout our society. Meanwhile, issues that may impact black folks has been elevated. Like autism is in my mind, and I'm older than all of you all. Autism is all of a sudden something that you hear about more often. I'm not discounting any of these things. I'm just saying, how do you transition from the DSM? I'm going to go technical with you all. And maybe you can't answer it. If you can't, then let's not go around the mulberry bush. But how do you change what's in the DSM to change and elevate certain behavior, but certain other behavior is considered something that we need to monitor or whatever. So I'm going to leave it right there, and then I'll be back to talk to you all in the future. But I appreciate this opportunity, and I just want to always say to you, hosts, always let the people in, because we're going to have other issues and conversations we want to explore. Thank you.
No, I thank you. And you know, I want to address both of our callers. I want to say, number one, thank you. Thank you so much, because I invite you to join the conversation. I invite everybody to join the conversation. I talk with you all. You know, I'm very transparent. I talk with you all and I share with you all, but I also tell you I don't know everything. I don't profess to know everything. I don't want to know everything, but I do want to be educated. I do believe knowledge is power. And I appreciate the question that you did ask. I appreciate it. And I want to talk about it. And I encourage anyone else that has an opinion, a suggestion, a question, to call as well, because I believe communication is key. I believe that's how we get to the next step. That's how we get past and above and beyond. That's how we move forward, when we communicate with each other, but when we communicate effectively. I believe that as adults, we don't adult properly, nor do we communicate effectively. And that is what I'd like to have in this space here. I encourage us to communicate. I encourage us to talk, whether we agree or disagree. That's all right, because we won't always agree on everything, and we're not supposed to, because we're individuals. So I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't cause you to forget the question that was asked, but I do remember that it was with regard to some of the disorders that she asked specifically, how in relation to what's the DSM, how some disorders, well, you remember the question. I can see both of you do, because you both are, okay, I'm sorry. I digress. Let me let you answer the question, because I see that you remember the question.
Can I start, and then Dr. Z, you can
finish? Go ahead.
The first thing is that we have to understand that this whole mental health world was not designed for Black people, right? It was created by white people, and it was, it did not include us. So as we, move forward in the path of understanding mental wellness and what that looks like for a Black or brown person, we have to look at it from a different lens, right? Because this, again, was not created for us. So to the points of, I guess historically where, homosexuality and all those things were considered mental disorders, but as we elevate and grow and grow to understand, is like things evolve. So I just wanted to make sure that we understand that, like, even when we talk about the DSM and we talk about mental health as a whole, this was never designed for us. They didn't look at us and say, all right, let me take their experience and include that. Let me do this and make sure they're in there. That wasn't what happened. So Dr. Z, you could take it from there for me, but I just wanted to make that plain.
I need to interject for one moment, because we have to take a commercial break. I hate that we have to do so right now, but please hold your response. Family members, stay with us, because we'll be right back.
In Philadelphia, everyone is reading the One Book, One Philadelphia featured selection, Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu, a touching, funny book about how cultural representation, family histories, and class shape us. Youth companion books include American-Born Chinese by Jean Lumen Yang and Drawn Together by Min Lei and Dan Santat. One Book features 9 weeks of programming through June 22nd, sponsored by Pico. Visit freelibrary.org/onebook for the full calendar of events. Good day, Philadelphia. Sayre Health Center would love to invite you to their annual community health fair on Saturday, May 6th. You can bring the whole family out for a day of food and festivities. Come out to win a free 65 or 70-inch TV, no purchase required, and other prizes. There will be a plethora of community organizations giving out information for you. Stop by Sayre Health Center at 227 South 59th Street on Saturday, May 6, 2023, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m.
For more than a decade, Comcast has been committed to bridging the digital divide in Philadelphia and across the country. From connecting people to the internet to opening doors for the next generation of innovators, entrepreneurs, and storytellers, they are helping to create a future that benefits generations to come. Now, Comcast is expanding their efforts through Project Up, their comprehensive initiative to help build a future of unlimited possibilities. Backed by a $1 billion commitment to reach tens of millions of people over the next decade, Comcast is working to ensure all Philadelphians have the skills, resources, and opportunities they need to participate and excel in an increasingly digital world. This includes partnering with community experts to build a network of digital navigators, trusted individuals who help build awareness around initiatives like the government's Affordable Connectivity Program, and teach critical digital skills to get more people online. Project Up, building a future of unlimited possibilities. Learn more at comcast.com/Project Up. Through Project Up, Comcast is committing $1 billion to build a future of unlimited possibilities.
WURD Radio is happy to provide our listeners with the opportunity to participate in contests and win prizes. This is a reminder of our contest rules. All participants must be 18 years of age or older. Depending on the contest, persons may win only one prize from the radio station per contest for every 30-day period. Some contests might also specify one winner per household or company. Prizes must be claimed within 14 days or by 12 noon the day before the event, whichever is sooner, and must be accepted as is or forfeited. The radio station employees and their immediate relatives, sponsor employees and their immediate relatives, live remote sponsor employees and their immediate relatives, and any other media employee are ineligible to win prizes. Thank you for participating and for listening to WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Hey there, family. Welcome back. You are tuned in to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. That's WURDradio.com. We are joined by none other than Sarah-Ashley Andrews and Dr. ZENIDA Driver. We had begun a conversation that I had to interrupt just before the break, so I'm going to ask Dr. Driver if she wouldn't mind with her response, moving forward with her response.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback and also validate that caller, because Sarah-Ashley talked about the fact that the DSM was not initially created with us in mind. And I also like to validate that even sometimes now, when disorders are given or things are happening, that the diagnosis is attached to us, but sometimes it's not really the diagnosis. And here's why. I remember I used to work at a school doctor, Ethel Allen School. Some of you may know it. It's in North Philadelphia. And I used to work there as a behavior specialist assistant. And I used to work with the school psychologist. And there was a kid who was acting out every day around the same time each day. And they were like, oh, the kid has ADD, the kid has ADHD, the kid is oppositional. And yeah, the kid demonstrated some of those behaviors that we saw. But really, when we really sat down with the kid, we found out mom lost her job. We found out that the kid was not eating at home in the morning. So that is why they were acting out more in the first and second periods in that school. So in that moment, yeah, there was some behaviors, but that behavior wasn't in that moment a mental health disorder. It was a manifestation to the experience, the lived experience that that child was going through. And because the child did not have the proper coping skills or did not fully know how to articulate that, the child acted out. So when we talk about diagnosing, you are right. Sometimes they will throw a label very quickly, but we really have to be able to advocate for ourselves, right? Which is why conversations like this is so important, so that people can get that knowledge and say, well, I'm not really sure if this is mental health. And then we can have those conversations with a professional to flush it through. So I definitely want to validate that caller and saying you're right. There is some things that look like one thing, but it might totally be something else.
Can you both help to explain to me, and I didn't get the opportunity to ask because I was so busy moving forward, but I know our caller made reference to homosexuality and identification or human beings identifying and things of that nature. Was that in relation to disorders and diagnoses as well?
I think back in the day, it was considered to be mental health disorders. But of course, we've evolved from that line of thinking from, years ago.
So what do we now refer to? How is it now explained?
And the DSM is there is no homosexuality. The LGBT community is not a mental health disorder. It's a way of life. It's just something that someone chooses to do, regardless of what their sexuality is. And so what Sarah-Ashley was saying was prior in previous years, long time ago, the LGBT community was a part of the DSM. But as a result of research and ongoing conversations and people advocating, we then realized that that is not a mental health disorder.
Okay. So that is to what she was referring. Our caller was referring. Okay. That's interesting. About how long ago? Do you know about how long ago that it was referred to as a mental health disorder? Do you know?
You're right. Carol, you ready to make us have to pull out textbooks. You're about to make us have to pull out the textbooks.
But it made me think because she's stated, and I'm thinking, well, she's not. She's young, and I'm thinking, how long ago was that? If we're having this conversation, it could not have been just that long ago that it was in the text. But that's okay.
So just to answer your question, in 1968,
I was looking it up too.
1968.
that wasn't that long ago, quite honestly. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Even if you know what I'm saying. So that's interesting to see how things have changed, and in just the time period in which it has changed. So, and I understand what you were saying about having children present, and then you find out that it's okay. It's like a I don't want to say displaced emotion, but in some cases, I guess it is because they're acting out because there's something else that they're stressing about. So I definitely understand that. Before we, oh, go ahead. I'm
Can I jump in
sorry.
real quick?
Yes,
For me,
please.
it's always the what, right? Not the why.
Mhm.
Like, not why are you mad, but it's always for me. It's like, what happened? Like,
Mhm.
what caused this? Like, there's, a lot of this is coming from a place. So like, I'm always wanting to know, the what. Even when, in everyday life, I'm like, well, what was going on? Like, I always want to know the background. Part of it is just
Mhm.
being nosy, but the other part is like, if we can get to the root of it, we can solve it. So
Well,
like,
that
what happened?
you know what, I have to say that I agree with that because, like Ron was saying, I work with our babies, and I and more often than not, when I work in a school or a youth organization, some of our babies are frustrated, they're aggressive, they're angry, but I'm always curious to know the what, because I know it's not personal. It's not personal. But I always have to find out. You have to dig. Sometimes you have to really, really dig. And a lot of times some things that happen, and it could be something simple to me, but some things that happen are triggers for some of our babies. And it took me a minute to recognize that. But once you recognize that, it's like, okay, let me look at this through a different lens. And you do have to exercise patience. But I notice as adults, we don't do that. We just kind of we just quickly dismiss one another. We do that so often, and it bothers me to my core because we don't take the time. Like we'll talk about a child. Oh no, you have to talk to them. You have to, listen. You have to, but we don't do that with each other. We don't do that with adults.
And we
And
don't
that
do that
was
with ourselves, right?
no, we don't. How
We
about
don't
that?
do that with ourselves.
We don't. In oh, go right ahead.
I often have to tell my clients, like, we're not robots, right? We're
Mhm.
not sin men with no heart. We're not just walking around like, like things don't happen to us and affect us. And I think part of it is we don't talk to ourselves. We don't process with ourselves. We don't feel our feelings. Like we want to
Mhm.
just keep going as if things don't happen. But we have to,
Mhm.
we have to pause. Like we have to pause and be able to ask ourselves these questions. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? Like, what is going on around me that is making me feel this way? What can I change?
Sure.
Right? Those are some processing questions that we need to really ask ourselves because, eventually, like we walk around and don't pause and have all these
Mhm.
experiences, and then we kind of lose our minds or like lose it or like tap out. And it's like, because we didn't stop. We didn't stop to even
Mhm.
feel.
Mm. You just said a whole mouthful right there. That is so true. And which is why I always ask our family members to just take a moment, take some time for you. And I try to send some extra love because I know, like I said, I know some days I need it because I'm not being easy on myself. But and like you said, we all do that. We all do that. We had to take a break in in a few moments, maybe about 3 minutes. But before we do so, I want to, number one, go back to the conversation about the disorders that you had begun talking about. We were talking about schizophrenia. We were talking about narcissism. We were talking about narcissistic behavior. We were talking about different behaviors that you had begun to touch on. And I want to continue that conversation because I'm interested in knowing some of the behaviors associated with the different disorders. But also, I'm curious to know what are some of the biggest misconceptions about mental health, just about mental health overall. Um, I don't know if we should even start the conversation because it's I know I just asked you so much. So, how about we'll start, and then in a few moments we'll go to break.
Can I just jump to the first caller? I just wanted to speak to him real quick about some of the stuff he
Absolutely.
shared. When he talked about like being kind to one another. I remember like reading this story about like this guy that was on his way home, and he said, if somebody speaks to me, if somebody acknowledges me today, I won't take my life, right? And it
Mhm.
just stuck with me. So like people like, why do you speak to everybody? I literally speak to everybody I see, whether
Mhm.
I or not. Like I acknowledge them. I try my best to be as kind as possible. because we don't know, right? We don't know what people are dealing with. We don't know. Like, we press through and deal with stuff, and people don't know what we go through. So it's like, to be kind on purpose is what matters to me, right? In all areas of my life. Like, I know about the guy that empties the trash at the school board. I know about his life. I know his name. I know what he did this weekend. Like, everybody matters, right? To me. So from him to the superintendent, from anybody on the street, I speak to everybody, because like, we never know what people are dealing with. So, he said, like, and I don't know who said this quote, but like, people remember how they feel when they're around you, right? How you treated them,
how you made them feel. Yes.
So it's like, it's our job to make sure that, we're loving on each other, that we're being kind to each other, being gracious to each other.
I think that was Dr. Maya Angelou who made that, if I'm not mistaken. But what I always think of before we go to the break, really quick, I'm trying to get this out really quickly. It's a story about the three frogs. Are you familiar with the three frogs? They're hopping along, and they fall. They all jump into a ditch. And they're trying to hop out. They hop out, and they can't get out. And there's this other group of frogs that comes to the ditch, and they're talking to them. They're just talking to them. The one frog, he dies. He just gave up. The other frog, he dies. He gave up. The third frog jump, hopped out. And the other frogs that were at the top were looking in amazement. And he said, "Why are you looking at me that way?" And he said, "Well, we were telling you to give up. We thought you were going to die like the rest of them." And he said, "Oh, well, I'm deaf. I thought you were encouraging me." So it was because he thought they were speaking into him positively and pouring into him, that he felt encouraged. Had he known that they were saying, give up, he would have died like the other two. So I that story always stays with me. And it was, I thought to mention it by what you were just talking about speaking positively and treating how we treat others. On that note, we're going to go to break. Oh my goodness. So we can all breathe a little bit. Okay. And we can come back refreshed. Family, stay with us, because we'll be right back.
It might be time to become a member. This year marks the 20th anniversary of WURD, and there's no better time to join the forward movement. Sign up or renew your sustaining membership at just $90 or your digital membership for just $5 a month. Join online at wordradio.com/membership or pick up the phone and give us a call at 215-425-7875. Press 4 for assistance. The time to join is now.
What am I waiting for?
WURD Radio is happy to provide our listeners with the opportunity to participate in contests and win prizes. This is a reminder of our contest rules. All participants must be 18 years of age or older. Depending on the contest, persons may win only one prize from the radio station per contest for every 30-day period. Some contests might also specify one winner per household or company. Prizes must be claimed within 14 days or by 12 noon the day before the event, whichever is sooner, and must be accepted as is or forfeited. The radio station employees and their immediate relatives, sponsor employees and their immediate relatives, live remote sponsor employees and their immediate relatives, and any other media employee are ineligible to win prizes. Thank you for participating and for listening to WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Celebrating 20 years of progressive Black Talk Media. This is WURD, 900 AM and 96.1 FM, Philadelphia. Streaming online at wordradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
What is love?
You're listening to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
I think I know what love is.
Family, welcome back. Welcome to the top of the second hour of Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. Family, I invite you to join us during Philly Tech Week, Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. at the University City Science Center for a WURD mayoral forum focused on inclusion, innovation, and Philadelphia's future. At this event, a panel of WURD hosts will question the mayoral candidates on their plans to include Black Philadelphians in the city's investments in technological growth. Register now at wordradio.com/Tech Week. University City Science Center is located at 3675 Market Street. WURD is proud to partner with University City Science Center as well as Technically Philly and Philly Tech Week to present this forum, which is part of Every Voice, Every Vote. Please join us. I want to take a moment to go back to our socials and say hello to Cheryl, who's joining us, to Alfredia, who is joining us, to Tretch, who is still with us, Craig, who are still with us. Our family members are in the conversation and they are commenting. Alfredia writes, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That is the quote by Dr. Maya Angelou. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. We actually have another family member who is joining us on our phone lines, I believe. Are you still there?
Yes. Hi, it's Lola.
Lola, how are you, Miss Lola?
I'm good, Miss Carol. How are you?
I will not complain.
I know that's right. No reason to complain, but if you do complain, people will listen. There's nothing wrong with having an ear. Just like you said, there's nothing wrong with kindness, which you ladies were talking about. So it's so crazy that you're talking about this today because this has been on my mind, the mental health issues and people's mental health ever since the young man was strangled, choked hold on the subway. And the reason... Hello, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Are your guests there too? Okay,
yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, yes. And because the reason that it has been on my mind so much, because he was dealing with mental issues. And if people really look at the backstory, his mother was murdered in 2007 when he was 14 years old. And his aunt has said that ever since then, he has had severe mental issues. Now, I traveled back and forth to New York and D.C. for work. And I remember seeing him. He was a Michael Jackson impersonator, and he would be out dancing with his music and stuff. And the reason I'm saying all of this stuff is because we don't know what people are going through, just like one of the ladies said. And I always try to speak with kindness. I had to learn that because you don't know what would be the one thing that might set somebody off. And with this young man dealing with mental illness, we I know people are afraid, but people don't have any sympathy or try to understand until it touches them. And we have to really sometimes, that old saying, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Oh. I have been around people, not around people, but walking through the regional rail or New York or Washington, anyway, Philly. I'm sure all of you ladies have, and you've seen an unhoused person acting erratically. I've seen it on the sub as well. My first inkling is not to think that they should be murdered. This country, this America KKK has thrown mentally ill people away. In Philadelphia, they closed Byberry. They closed all the mental health institutions. Like, it was another one on Henry Avenue. There was another one somewhere. It was like up in Winfield somewhere. They closed all of these institutions and threw these people out on the street. Mm-hmm. They did this also in New York. They did it also in San Francisco. They did it also in California. A lot of people are walking around wounded. And then we don't have enough Black doctors. My mother was a psychiatrist, and my son wants to follow in her footsteps and be a psychiatrist. There are not enough Black psychiatrists and psychologists to really help Black people. And so then they're left the way that, and I want to say his name, Jordan Neely. He was mentally ill. He did not deserve to be murdered and chokehold. He needed extensive mental help. And this is what people have to really realize, that people are really hurting. And then even after coming out of COVID, being isolated, people not having places to live. And think about it. If you were working and you lost your job and stuff, think about the people who didn't have anything before COVID. Think about the people who were really destitute before COVID happened. Where were they when COVID happened? And so I really appreciate this subject tonight. And I really think that a lot of people have been saying, I'm hearing a lot of Black people saying, well, if you keep doing stuff like that, people tired, they're going to choke you. No one has the right to do what happened to him. The man was mentally ill, and we need to really think about that. We really need to think about if it was your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew. Mental illness can touch anybody. I've seen it touch some of the most beautiful people, and it takes them out of their mind. But they can come back with therapy, with medicine, sometimes therapeutic things that don't have to do with medicine or different things like that. But you can't just give up on someone. You know what I'm saying? And this country has done that. This country has thrown away the mentally ill, the elderly, anybody that they can't suck something out, they throw them away. We need mental health institutions to deal with mentally ill people. That's what we need in this country. We need to take care of our people. People need to be poured into. And like the lady said, when I'm in, I know I talk, say hello to the janitor. I know people who walk by don't even say anything. They say, you speak? I say, yes. Why? Yes, they have a daughter. Her daughter's birthday's coming up. You talk, I give, hi, how are you? And they say, oh, you always look so nice. You always speak. And I say, well, no, that's the most I can do. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for picking this up. Thank you for wiping this out, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of people are dealing with so many mental health issues. And that's the most important thing. If you don't have your health, you really have nothing. Health is wealth. And so that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you for this, because that young man really, because people are saying so many evil things, but this man was mentally ill. And he was giving music and stuff to people in the subways. You can go in the subways in New York and hear some of the best musicians singing and everything. And he was doing the Michael Jackson singing and dancing. And now he's been choked out because he was mentally ill. And I just want to say this. I know you have to let me go, Carol, but
no.
A lot of people get arrested because the cops are called on them, but the people don't know what else to do. So then they call the cops, and then that's what starts the cycle of having an arrest record, because the cops are called when people are afraid. So that's why we also need mental health professionals to be called with the cops so they can help them and calm them down instead of arresting them. And then and that's another thing that afflicts Black people who have been in mental health crisis, and then they come out of it, but now they have a record because when they were out of their mind, they've been arrested. People have some heart. Think about this if this was your child. And a lot of young boys and girls now are very depressed. I talk to my sons. I talk to my nephews. I look them in their eyes and say, how are you doing? What's going on? Well, I wasn't feeling too good. Well, let's talk about that. Let's dig into that. Don't let that go. So you need to think about when we see people out here mentally ill, you don't have to say anything to them. Say a little prayer for them and keep on walking if you don't want to be bothered. But do not treat people like they are scum.
Agreed. I could not have said that better. Miss Lola, I could not have said that better. Thank you so much for sharing that. Family, I say it at when I close every single episode that we have on this platform. I ask you to be good to you, but be good to those around you. And I'm going to ask you again tonight because I mean it. I mean it. I mean it. I mean it. We have no compassion. We have no compassion. And it pains me. It hurts me so much because I, like you, Sarah-Ashley, I speak to everybody. I talk to everybody. What I told you, my family calls me Oprah because they said, "Child, you just," but because I think it's necessary. You just, like you said, Dr. Driver, we don't know what the next person is carrying or dealing with or holding, or we don't know. We don't know. We just don't have a clue, and that's the devil right there. But guess what? You are not welcome here because you said my little computer, something's going on. Something's going on. Family, I want you to know everything went black for a moment. That was nobody but the devil. But guess what? You are not welcome here because what we're here to do is to do better. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why I asked both of you ladies to come on here and educate me, and to help those of our family members who want some of this information as well. I can't thank y'all enough. I mean it. I mean it. Ron, Miss Jamila, Miss Lola. I mean it. I mean it. All of the comments. Miss Judith, human being, human support. That's right. On our socials, our family members are commenting and are communicating with us. Fred Sires. Yes. Hi, Freddie. Cheryl. Everybody is in agreement. And that makes me feel so good to know that, we have so many like-minded individuals. I don't know where we start. I don't know. I guess that the fact that we're having this conversation is a start, but I don't know where we go from here, but I need it to change. I tell you that I personally need it to change, and what Miss Lola said was so right. What happens is that a lot of our family members are put in the hands of the police who don't have the proper understanding of how to deal with the situation. And the result is what the same result of which she just spoke. And it's always tragic. It's always traumatic. But it's always us. It's always us. And y'all know I'm a big teardrop. I'll get on here and it hurts me so deeply. But I really do, if you will, tell us more about the disorders, about which we spoke a little earlier. I'm curious to know, what do we look for in some of our babies? What are some of the signs that we look for?
Can I just go back to the caller?
Please, no, go right ahead. I'm so sorry. That was terrible of me.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I got all caught up in my own emotion. I was so emotional for a moment.
You're fine.
No, please go right ahead, Sarah-Ashley.
What I wanted to say to that is that that's why advocacy is so important, right? We're just not therapists, but part of being a therapist is the part of advocacy, right? Like, we have to speak up. I remember when Walter Wallace was murdered in Philly, when he was shot, and I remember being on calls with Commissioner Outlaw and saying, like, look, it can't be another Walter Wallace, right? What is going to be done? What is going to be implemented so that we make sure that this can't happen again, right? Mm-hmm. And so now when you call 911, there are questions that they're asked, like, is the person, dealing with a mental illness right now, or are they having a mental any, like, I guess I don't want to say episode, but are they experiencing a mental health crisis right now, right? Those are some questions that are now asked before they even send the police, so they can know, like, do we need to send a mental health first aid, somebody that's trained in mental health first aid with them, right? There was an incident where a student in Masterman was on the roof, and they were able to send somebody specialized in people who were dealing with mental health crisis, and they were able to get her down, right? So it's important that we that people know that a part of advocacy, a part of being a therapist, is the advocacy part. Like, we have to speak up. We have to make sure that we are setting the tone for what should happen, right? We have this knowledge. We need to make sure that we're spreading it and empowering others to act on what needs to be done, so that we won't have incidents where somebody's getting choked out on a train, or we won't have incidents where a person is being arrested when they really need treatment. So that's a very important piece of what we do.
And then when we talk about this whole idea of community and violence and just the unfair treatment of us as African Americans, that's secondary trauma in itself, even to us who are not directly in that moment with that experience, right? And a lot of times we don't even recognize that seeing the killings, the murders of our teenagers in Philadelphia and things happening, it impacts us. It hurts us. And sometimes we feel like our hands are tied. What do we do? And it raises a lot of emotions. And sometimes we don't do anything with those emotions, but hold on to them because we don't know what to do with them. And you said, what do we do? Where do we start? We start here. We have these conversations. We offer outlets for people to express what it is that they're feeling. You look on the TV, if you see a young Black man murdered, whether it's your child or someone else's child, it still impacts you as a Black mother, as a Black person in our community. So sometimes we don't even realize that just seeing it on the news, whether it be close to us in Philadelphia or far from us to Atlanta, Georgia, the reality is it impacts us in various ways. And sometimes we got to make sure that we check in with ourselves and process that trauma, because that is also a form of trauma.
It hurts. It all hurts. It hurts. Oh my goodness. So I want to go back to the question that I was asking about what to look for in some of our babies, some things that we could be on alert for, if that's even possible. I don't know if that's even possible. Is that possible?
So it is possible. And, the thing just in general, just to kind of bring some awareness, when we talk about the DSM, it's over 300 disorders within the DSM. Every disorder has its own criteria. You're required to have a certain amount of, meet a certain amount within that criteria to actually receive that mental health diagnosis, right? So, but the thing about it is the criteria is just the general terms that we look for as mental health providers or specialists. However, it shows up kind of what we're talking about differently. So what do you look at? You look at if this child or this person has a change in their baseline. So is that person typically one way and now there's a drastic shift in something that you're not used to with this individual or with this child? That may be a red flag that something isn't right. We need to be more attuned to that person. We need to see, okay, this person is going to be bubbly, and I'm noticing that this person is really isolating themselves, or this child is really isolating themselves. It could be, I have a teenage son myself. Sometimes he just likes to be by himself. That doesn't mean he's depressed. That just means in this phase of his life, he kind of likes those moments of alone time. So it's really important for us to be attuned to those around us to see, is there a shift? Is there something that seems off? And the biggest piece of it is not to feel like we have to do it ourselves and figure it out. The great thing is you can, even if you don't go see a mental health professional, you can start with your primary care physician and say, hey, something doesn't seem right. And I'm not sure, I may be overthinking, I don't know, but I'd rather seek help and don't need it than not seek help at all and really do need it.
That's a good point. Well, but sometimes it's so dangerous, especially when we're talking about the medical field nowadays. When you seek help and you don't need it, there are a lot of physicians out there who will try to convince you that you do. So it's so tricky. And I believe, especially and particularly with us, with people of color, with Black people, I believe it's always now, mind you, family, I'm sharing my own personal opinion. I want to be clear about that. I'm sharing what I believe and what I think, about about the health industry. All right. I tell you, I'm still processing it. I feel so. It feels good to have this conversation with you all. It really does. But it is so emotional for me. It's such an emotional conversation because, again, I told you I was so anxious to have it because I don't feel like we have it enough. We don't talk about it enough. I know in my own family, we never really talked about mental health. It just it's almost as if it just didn't exist, in the Black communities or in our families. Family members, I want to encourage you to join the conversation. Join the conversation. I appreciate the fact that those of you that have done so thus far have done so, and boy, I appreciate the contributions you are making to this conversation. If you have not done so and you would like to do so, you can reach out to us on our socials. You can do that, or you can call us. You can call us at 215-634-8065, or you can call us toll free at 1-866-361-0900. I was talking with you earlier, Dr. Driver, and I was saying to you that one of my own family members was most recently diagnosed with dissociative personality disorder and I believe schizophrenia. I don't know enough about any of the disorders to know what any of them mean. What exactly does that mean? What do they mean? What does that mean? What do the both of those disorders mean, actually?
Sarah, you want to take it over? No?
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. So pretty much and again, this is something that we really don't want to get into the weeds about because it can present differently and all those things. But it pretty much, is when two personalities can show up at the same time or in one individual.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just leave it as plainly as I can.
Okay.
No, I got you.
I know it's tricky. I know it's tricky.
So kind of add to that. I guess you kind of want the meat to go with the potatoes, right? But the reality is that there's a disconnection. There's a psychological disconnection that's happening in that individual's mind. They're not able to find continuity between their thoughts, between their emotions, and they're not able to kind of center themselves on a baseline. And so that means that some days, again, when we talk about personality disorder, that means that there is a lack of connection of some type. Mm-hmm. Now, the lack of connection for your family member versus the lack of connection for someone else may look drastically different. But the common theme that you will see is that there is a psychological lack of connection, that something is not the baseline that would be the typical baseline for an individual or for that person is kind of off. And so as a result, now they have been diagnosed with a dual diagnosis of the ones you just said your family member has.
Family, stay with us. It's that time again. It's time for us to take just a short break. When we come back, we're going to go back to our socials and read some of the comments. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
WURD Radio Digital Tip of the Month with Stephanie Humphrey. Brought to you by Comcast.
It's always useful to have some tips on how to make your smartphone battery last longer, and here are a couple you might not have thought of. First, closing the apps on your phone probably won't save battery life. That may have been the case with earlier technology, but today's phones are optimized for apps, and opening them from scratch actually takes more battery power than just keeping them open. If you like streaming things like music, podcasts, or movies, try downloading the content to your phone to listen offline if that option is available. Streaming from the internet uses up way more battery life than listening to something that's stored in your phone's memory. So think about using these two tips to make sure your smartphone battery lasts all day. Stay tuned to WURD for more tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
Good day, Philadelphia. Sayer Health Center would love to invite you to their annual community health fair on Saturday, May 6th. You can bring the whole family out for a day of food and festivities. Come out to win a free 65 or 70-inch TV, no purchase required, and other prizes. There will be a plethora of community organizations giving out information for you. Stop by Sayer Health Center at 227 South 59th Street on Saturday, May 6th, 2023 from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m.
WURD Radio is the only African-American owned and operated talk radio station in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and one of only 3 remaining in the country. In the past 20 years, WURD has evolved into a multimedia, multi-platform communications company that reaches deeply into the Black community through radio, events, digital, and social media. It is considered the go-to channel to engage, interact, and connect with Philadelphia's Black community. Our brand is built on the personal legacy of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD. Dr. Lomax was a brilliant physician who established medical centers in underserved neighborhoods throughout Philadelphia to provide high-quality health care to Black and brown communities for over 30 years. One of his most ambitious acquisitions was when he purchased WURD Radio. He understood the power of ownership and the power of independent media. Through WURD, he wanted to ensure that Philadelphia's Black community had the ability to speak and be heard in their own voice. We are celebrating 20 years of Black excellence. We are celebrating 20 years of progressive Black talk media.
What is love?
You're listening to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
I think I know what love
Hey there, family. Welcome back. You are tuned in to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. You know I'm going to say it just because I like to. That's WURDradio.com. On our socials, Stretch Ebony writes, "It blows my mind how law enforcement can arrest armed Caucasian men without any incident and continue to murder unarmed people of color again and again. Our skin is still our sin." The comment continues, "So much affects us, including the violence around us, any form of abuse, lack of healthy foods, lack of exercise, financial struggles, the fear embedded in our DNA, and not understanding the importance of self-care, to name a few." All of that is so true. So true. We are dealing with so much. That is exactly why we're having this conversation right here. I believe we have one of our family members on our phone lines. Audrey, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Hi, Miss Audrey.
How are you?
I will not complain.
I'm complaining, and that's why I called.
That's why we're here.
Thank you. And so, if I may, my question is to Dr. Driver.
Hello.
How are you, Dr. Driver?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. For Dr. Driver, there's no particular age group that I'm referring to when I say the following. Do you find that there are barriers that stop you from really having your professional opinion appreciated?
Are there barriers that stop me from having my professional opinion appreciated?
When it's concerning, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
When it's concerning Black and brown people, ourselves.
I think that we have a long history of not having our opinions appreciated. I do think that sometimes when certain systems are in place, we are, as Black and brown people, we do have to fight against some of those systems that were not designed with us in mind. I do think that there is a lack of education around our struggles, right? Someone mentioned, I think in the comments, that it's in our DNA, right? We've been dealing with trauma even before we even came into existence. So I think that we do have to, as professionals, advocate harder, advocate stronger, if I can say, advocate more in numbers around things that concerns us in our Black community. So yes, I do think, to be honest, there are some systems in place that does not take everything that comes with being Black and brown into consideration. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I appreciate your honesty. Have you put this on public record in our city council? Because of late, we've been having discussions around, can Philadelphia take care of its own health-related matters, which, of course, would not exclude our mental focus or our mental dysfunction.
And I think your question probably is best suited for Ms. Sarah-Ashley Andrews, who serves the city of Philadelphia in various ways, from working with politicians and the school district of Philadelphia and speaking up for things concerning mental health in just our community. So I think, Sarah, it would be good for you to kind of tag that question around, have you been able to address these issues in the role that you currently have?
And if I may, just one more point. What I have noticed is that whether it's in a nursing home or whether it's in a hospital care or what have you, is that the dietary is not meeting the needs of what it is that they're there for. It's either that the food is put in front of them, they don't want it because it doesn't appeal to them, and for various reasons. I think that there should be more voice appreciated when it is that there are those organizations who want to come in and assist and aid, perhaps provide a menu that has more appeal to those that are being given care. And, the inadequacy of not drinking enough water, it just doesn't make sense to me that a person is to take a medication and they're not drinking enough water, or they haven't drank enough, or don't have any intention or desire to do so, because in a lot of respects, there's not enough money put into these places where we're concerned.
And I think before Sarah-Ashley takes over, I think one of the things beyond being a therapist, and Sarah kind of already alluded to this earlier when she spoke, but one of the things beyond just talk therapy and diagnosing is advocacy. And I think one of the responsibilities that we have when we evolve to a certain level is to speak up around anything that we feel is not good, not beneficial, or just not taken into consideration when it comes to any community that we're working in, right? Or working with. We need to be the individual that speaks up. We need to be the person who challenges the system as much as we can. But the reality, right? We always got to look at reality and truth. Challenging the system is a hard task at times. So yeah, we got to speak up. It's our role and we need to challenge it. But we also have to be willing to understand that sometimes it takes time to break systems that are in place that may not have been, as I said before, designed with all things taken into consideration.
Ms. Sarah-Ashley, did you want to answer the question that Ms. Audrey asked about whether some of these issues had been tackled in some of the rooms with our council?
Yeah. So for me, is this: I can never take my therapist hat off, right? So when I'm in a board meeting as a school board member, when I'm meeting with city council, when I'm sitting on any committee for the mayor, I'm always a therapist, right? Like I don't say, oh, let me take this hat off and put this hat on now, right? I'm always that. So for me, and to Dr. Driver's point, is that it's my job to speak up, right? If I'm the expert in the room on this particular thing, then it's my job to make sure that they are aware of whatever information I have.
I'm hearing an echo. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Audrey. I wanted to make sure. Okay, Miss Audrey was good. She said she was hearing an echo, so she said thank you so much for answering her question. I believe we have another family member that has been waiting to talk with us. Dee, are you still there?
Good. We can say afternoon. Good evening, ladies. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you're having this conversation. I felt compelled to call tonight. I've always been a long time WURD listener. And I chime into the show. I remember when you used to come on real late. So glad that you have this hour slot, because it's wonderful.
Thank you.
But I wanted to, I'm very welcome. I wanted to chime in as a man, as an African American man, with something that was unique. I've heard people say this, but to experience it is one thing. Now I've always dealt with bits of depression. Okay. Mm-hmm. I should roll back a little bit. I've always been a person that always picked people up. Just real quick, and I'll be conscious of our time as well. There was a guy on the train, and I just saw him shaking his head. Typically, I think as Lola stated, the other caller, she's always excellent, that typically people will walk away, or they would say, well, I don't know, he looks like crazy. So I felt myself compelled to sit close to him. And hoping to, draw up a conversation. And we did. Ironically, he complimented me on my shoes. And then we just started talking. And just out of the blue, he just started weeping. And he said, I was like, well, how's your day? He said, I hope you have a good day. Good brother. I said, you want to have a good one too? I hope you do as well. He goes, man, I would, man. And I used to dress like that. He said, but if I can kick this drug habit, I'll be all right, man. I just got to find a place. So I felt compelled to say, well, listen, go to your nearest hospital. And there was a lady who happened to be a nurse. She was just a random stranger. She walked up and just started, stroking, rubbing his back, basically saying that it'll be okay. And right there showed me the power of just human compassion. Now, I'll draw it fast forward to where I'm at now. I didn't realize it. Like I said, I'm always the person to make people laugh, keep them upbeat, and so forth. With this depression thing, I thought I knew it. I've always wanted to be a person who spoke out on it. But it's very asphyxiating, and I'm sure you ladies would agree. Snuck up me this time, and I said, well, all right, I'll just kick it out.
It sounds like we're having some technical difficulties. Dee, I don't know if you can hear us, but we lost you. And it sounds like the signal went out. But Dee was talking about depression. He mentioned having some bouts with it. I'm hoping that we do get him back. But in the meantime, I can identify with that. I can definitely and most certainly identify with that. Depression is it's a beast. It's a mean beast. It gets me some days, I must say. I was just talking about that earlier. Heavens to Murgatroyd family. If you've just joined us, you're tuned in to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. We are talking with none other than Sarah-Ashley Andrews and Dr. ZENIDA Driver. And we're talking about everything as it pertains to mental health, everything under the umbrellas of love, life, and mental health. We are discussing it all. I'm encouraging you, as I always do, to join the conversation because, I don't want there to be a question that I did not ask or forgot to ask that you were waiting to hear the response to. So please join us. You can reach out to us on our socials. Hey there, Harry. Harry writes that he loves this love. Thank you so much for that. That you too can comment on our socials, or you can reach out to us by calling us. And you can call us at 215-634-8065, or you can reach us toll free at 1-866-361-0900. I'm looking at the hour of the show, and if Dee should call back, and I welcome you to do so, I want to make sure, Sarah, that you talk to us about Dare to Hope. I do not want to go without mentioning, because I know I said I wanted to talk about so much, and we've done just that. But I don't want to forget, and I don't want to leave this conversation without you telling us about Dare to Hope.
Okay. So started Dare to Hope in 2013 after my friend died by suicide. We were 25 and he took a gun and shot himself. And at that time, it's like, we didn't know, or I can just say I didn't know anything about mental health, what I should have been looking for. Just nothing, none of that. Right. I was on track at the time I was going to school for my biblical studies degree. But prior to that, I was, in Bloomsburg University, getting a mass comm degree, was pursuing a mass communications degree. Like my dream was to make movies and make films, but his death kind of changed the trajectory of my life in a good way, right? So I wanted to be able to create a platform where I could educate Black and brown people on mental wellness. Like, what does that look like in our communities and for our individual selves? Because we were so unaware, right? We didn't know what to look for. We didn't know, and now that I know, it was signs all along, right? But because I didn't know, we didn't know how to interject ourselves and help. So it was, something I wanted to do was to create this platform where we can educate people, because we can save lives through education. So started going out, like going into schools through my relationships with people, being able to do workshops with students, finished my degree, added my human service minor to my degree, went back and got my master's in counseling, because I just wanted to not necessarily be legit, but, have some education back at me on it. So that's how Dare to Hope came to be. We started fundraising by selling bracelets. I would make Dare to Hope bracelets, selling for $5. And that's how we kind of started fundraising. And then, we grew into a tangible organization that we've been able to work with, some really dope people, and got our story told on some really dope platforms. So that's there to hold. We've actually educated more than 4,500 people so far. We've been at Made in America every year for the past 3 or 4 years with a booth that we can just talk to people and have engaging conversations about mental wellness and all people, not just Black and brown people. So we've probably now close to probably maybe the 7,500 mark or 8,000 people that we've engaged with.
Oh my goodness. I'm looking at the time and I'm trying to keep my eye on the clock. We do have to go to a short commercial break in about 2 minutes, but I believe we have Dee back on the line. So Dee, if you don't mind, could you hold on? Are you there? Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, okay. There you are. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right.
Okay.
We lost you when you were talking about depression, and you were beginning to tell us about a bout with depression.
Yes. So with mine, it's very sneaky. And what I was saying is that I thought I was able to always to compartmentalize it and just deal with it later. Just recently, I would say within the last month, it really sent me into a dark place. Not that I wanted to do harm to myself or anyone else, but I just couldn't shake it. And my point is, what I wanted to round my point was that it came to the point where I know that it's typically taboo, and especially with African American men, we don't usually reach out or tell anybody. We just try to fix it ourselves or just don't talk about it. I couldn't. The walls was closing in on me, literally were closing in, and I was waking up like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. So, I had just simple conversation around about with a couple of brothers, and I was like, I'm really seriously thinking about doing therapy, seriously, because I don't know what's going on. I said, but I'm trying to see if I'm going to do female, male, don't really matter to me. So I had a couple of brothers come to me and say, well, yeah, man, there's a lot of brothers that do female, therapists or male, don't really make a difference. He said, we just refer to African American. I said, I think the bigger picture is, you guys have, have you had therapy before? They said, yeah. So my point is, the only thing I kept thinking to myself is, as brothers, why are we keeping this silent? I understand no one wants the stigma. I understand that whole thing. But why aren't we not sharing this? Because there's a therapist, to round it off, my therapist is an African-American woman. And again, the sex didn't matter which species it was, just I wanted to be African-American. And that is, I guess, my biggest question, because I think that can help us a lot, especially as men, because you all know that a lot of times we compartmentalize or we just hold it in. We're men. We're not supposed to talk about that. Or what I've heard so often with the brothers is, well, man, ain't no such thing. We don't have depression. Probably we men. We don't get depressed. We're depressed about what? Just get happy. And we just, as a group, we ignore it. So I use that because I know we all are suffering from it, no matter what species we are. But I think that it'll go a long way if African-American men start communicating that, starting with each other, because then with their significant others, okay, with their wives, they can talk to them and say, hey, here's what's going on. I'm no longer ashamed to talk about what's happening with me. Instead of, you ladies having to come, not to say specific, but ladies have to come and say, hey, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? What are you going through? And like, I don't feel like talking about it. No, let's talk about it. This time, be open. Like, hey, sweetheart, listen, some things is on my mind. I think we need to talk. And it's not about you. It's not anything that you've done wrong. It's just, I'm not feeling myself. Now, I mean, how wonderful that communication would be. And I can't help but think maybe would have led to a lot of divorces as well. So that's all I want to say. I don't want to take up all the caller's time.
No. Thank you for calling back. I will have to say that we're going to have to take a short break before we address the comment you just made. So family, stay with us because we'll be right back.
Absolutely.
Jeff Brown, as you know by now, is a grocer who used his ShopRite supermarkets to address food deserts. His stores now feed about a quarter of all Philadelphians. Jeff's solution became a national model for combating a food crisis and poverty. For it, Jeff was honored at the State of the Union address. He's employed 2,300 union workers who get childcare, retirement, and healthcare benefits. He's the only candidate who has worked with a large union workforce. City workers who pick up the trash, SEPTA workers, food workers, Teamsters, and more have all endorsed Jeff Brown for mayor for his management skills. Now the politicians, the same ones who denied services to our communities, are attacking Jeff. They don't want things to change. It suits their purposes. Together we can fight back. So vote. Vote early. Every voice counts. Jeff Brown is the mayor we need to change things and make our city safe and healthy again.
Paid for by Jeff Brown for mayor.
You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Oh, family, welcome back. You are tuned in to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. That's WURDradio.com. We have had a loaded meal tonight, I must say, a full meal. Before the break, we were talking with D, and he was sharing with us about normalizing the conversation amongst our men so that in our relationships, the conversation can also be normalized about needing help and wanting to talk through what's going on. D, I did not get the opportunity to ask you because we had to go to break, and I'm so sorry that I had to interject in that moment. But I'm curious to know if going to therapy did help you. I'm going to say that I hope it did. I really do hope that it did help, that it was helpful. And because we were talking about it too, about, needed, like, it should be normalized. The conversation should be normalized. We should be able to say to our loved ones, our friends and family, I really need some help. And we should feel comfortable about going to talk with a professional about to seek the help that we need. Oh my goodness. Ladies, I can't thank you, the both of you, enough. I really can't. I really
Carol,
can't
can I jump in real quick just to kind of speak to that caller? And I think he really emphasized a really good point of the necessity. We talked earlier about creating safe spaces for our children. We talk about all the time creating safe spaces for women, but it really does need to be a safe space for men to be able to process their emotions in a way that feels good for them. And there are so many, or not so many, but there are a few organizations that I think are really helpful for Black men. We have Black Men Heal, which is an organization that is targeted towards just Black men coming together to have these hard conversations, to talk about these emotions. We have Black Men Build, which is also a group that just not only just talks about healing, but it talks about how do we build our community? How do we create a place that we can all come together? We can work on our emotions, but we can strengthen those around us. And so I think it's so important not only for us to just deal with these things individually, but to link arm in arm with others, because what we'll see is that we're not going through this alone, that there's other men, other women, other children, other people who struggle just like we struggle. And then when 2 or 3 is gathered, great things can happen, right? So
you better
need to have those conversations in safe environments. And so kudos to that caller, kudos to everyone, but I really want to say kudos to that Black man for just even admitting his struggles, because that's something men don't always do, if we can be honest, and also seeking help and working on it. So kudos to you for that.
Yes, I think we echo that. We echo that. Thank you for sharing for being transparent, for being open, for being vulnerable in this space, because listen, I can't say it enough. I believe that's what we need. We need to talk. We need to be open to hearing what each other has to say. Sarah, did you want to add something? Was there something you wanted to say?
I was waiting for the ambulance or the car to ride past. No, but I think to the point of his transparency, if we can have more unrestricted conversations about our mental health, right, where we don't hold back, and we share with each other, right, what we're going through, what we're dealing with. I think we would be better off as a people, right? If we were able to join together as a community and really have unrestricted conversations and not be afraid. Dr. Z called me the other day, and she texted me a bunch of questions back to back, and I had to call her like I'm overstimulated, like it's things that I can't handle, right? And if we be transparent about, I have anxiety, so it's like, oh, hold up, there's too much at once, right? So it's like if we can be transparent about what we deal with or what we're dealing with, and then what we need. Right. Like I needed her to have a conversation with me and ask me the questions like that, right? Not through text. So it's like we can communicate what we need and what we're feeling. I think we would just be better off. So transparency is essential.
And normalizing it, right? Just normalizing that mental health is mental health. You know, a lot of times people feel like, when we talked about, you asked earlier, Carol, and we didn't get to the question, but a misconception. One of the misconceptions is that if I have a mental health disorder, I'm crazy or something's wrong with me. But the reality is no, we all struggle with something. You know, I remember being in my doctorate program and we looked at the DSM and we had to kind of diagnose ourselves. And I was like, oh Lord, I got every disorder in this book, right? But the reality is we all struggle with something. We may not have it chronically. We may not have it ongoing. We may not have it to the level and the capacity of someone else, but we all have struggles. And I think we need to normalize that. And just as Sarah called and said, hey, I have anxiety. And it was a normal conversation. It wasn't like she was crazy or she was being weird. It's a normal thing. And I think when we take that stigma off of it and we normalize it, great things can definitely happen.
That is so true. Sarah, I want to ask again, because I know, were you telling me that there's something you were going to share with us, some information?
Oh, yeah. Biggest thing, right? How did I forget it? So we recently, through a grant, were able to purchase a transit van, like a Ram ProMaster. I guess more people could identify with like a Benz Sprinter, right? We were able to purchase the van, and then we remodeled the inside of it to make it appear to be or it is not appearing to be a therapy suite inside of it. So we have TVs and we have couches and we have 2 benches, and it's set up as a therapy office. So we're going to use that as our mobile therapy unit. So when we have community events, or if a company needs us to come and do therapy for their business, we're able to pull up and actually provide therapy right inside the van.
Oh my God. Can you ride through all the neighborhoods, please? Can you help us all? Can we just, can we raise our hands like we do together?
We're going to need more than one van. Right. We need some more grants to get more than one van.
Listen.
We need one more state.
You have us all outside standing with our hands raised. Like, can I come in right now?
Right.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
is awesome. A therapy. Listen. That is so awesome. And thank you to the both of you for all of your efforts. Thank you for all of the work that you're doing, all of the work that you have done. I mean, this conversation here, it was helpful to me. And family, I hope it was helpful to you. I always ask you if there's anything you want me to ask, or if there's anything that you don't know, or tell me, because I want us all to be educated, because I believe that's how we help each other. That's exactly how we move forward and we do better. That's what I truly do believe. I believe communication is key. Crystal Rucker writes, awesome. Harry writes, awesome. Thank you, y'all. Nasir, hi there, Nasir. Nasir writes, good evening to me and to you all, our guests. Great conversation. And he says, peace and blessings. What a blessing. What a blessing. What a blessing. Harry writes, love and life is awesome. You know what? That was a hug to my heart. Don't you make me cry on a Thursday. Miss Judith, hi there, Miss Judith. She writes that the sun is so important for our soul. Aromatherapy. So true. I'm so happy to know that you all are contributing to the conversation. It means more to me than I can ever express. All of our callers, from Ron, Mr. Ron, Miss Jamila, Miss Lola, Miss Audrey, and Mr. D. Thank you to each and every one of you for contributing. Thank you to Raphael. Hey there. Good evening to you, to everybody. We are one. Ebony writes, we are one. Love and blessings to all. Family, this is the time that I hate. I hate it. But as we wrap up tonight's episode, I extend my utmost gratitude to each and every one of you for your continuous support of love and life. And a tremendous thank you to our guests, Sarah-Ashley Andrews and Dr. ZENIDA Driver, for sharing your time, your energy, for your attention, your knowledge, making yourself available, You hear me? Making yourself available to us. Thank you to the entire WURD family. Thank you to everybody on our socials. Thank you, family. Special thanks to Miss Kayla J for making sure everything runs smoothly. Family, you know it's coming because I say it to you every single night. We are all in this together. So please be good to you, but be good to those around you. And be sure to join me Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. Have a good night, everybody.
Looking to grow and thrive while making a difference in the lives of young people?